Herzlich willkommen zum unserer Show.
Welcome to the Youth Enviro Show. For those who watched our show previously and you were there commenting, sharing, liking, we would like to take this moment and appreciate you so much, give you hugs.
Oh, big hugs.
Yes, and for those who didn't get a chance, it's never too late because on our social media platform, actually, you can always go back and click the first episode.
Yes, please help us share this episodes as we want to spread awareness on how our communities can sustain the environment. So then, who are we? Well, we are your hosts. I'm Sharissa.
And I'm Esther. It's always a pleasure to have you with us here, right here.
But you know what? Stay tuned because we will be right back.
We did this. The wastelands, the acid rains, the sea is no longer blue. It's full of trash because of our greed. As humans, we are full of greed. We are destroying our homes. How will we tell the generation and their generation what it felt like to look at the sun? What it felt like to smell the beautiful aroma of a sunflower? How will we tell them? Because we are full of greed. We are changing the climate. We are destroying our earth. You and I, we need to make a change. We need to stand up and protect our earth. We can do better together. Hi, this is Rita Naure and you are watching the Youth Enviro Show. Keep tuned.
Welcome back. In the last episode, we have spoken about climate change in general, the effects of climate change, the causes of climate change, what me and you can do to curb climate change,
and what our government has been doing to help curb climate change. And you know what? We have been seeing on the news, it's filled with images of natural disasters. For example, like the USA is constantly experiencing wildfires in California, and a lot of people are being displaced.
In addition to what Sharissa has just shared with us, in Australia, it has been happening the same. And this actually brings us to today's topic, which is climate change and migration. Before we actually dish out a lot of answers and examples and scenarios, we would like you to comment down below on our questions that we are about to pose, which is, how does climate change affect migration?
Yes. And then Esther, what is migration actually?
Migration is when organisms move from one place to another. That's what we call migration.
Oh, but I would also like to add to that displacement. I mentioned the word displacement earlier. And what that means is that you have little to no choice. You have to leave a certain place. You either live in that place or you will die in that place.
And don't get us wrong, because it's not wrong for organisms to migrate. For example, some organisms, such as animals, some they prefer to migrate due to seasons. They would like to go hunt in a certain place at a certain time. But the problem comes in when they migrate earlier than expected.
Oh no, that would be detrimental to them, because imagine they could die.
Yes, for example, in Central and South Asia, studies have shown that some fish stock are actually migrating from a warmer environment towards the pole, where they are actually looking for food, and during the migration is where depleting actually occurs, because a study have shown that there's a lot of hazardous algal bloom that is actually building up on the surface of the water, and that's what we call eutrophication, leading the oxygen to deplete in the water, making it so hard for them to survive.
Oh my word. So then there's literally almost no more oxygen
Yes.
in the sea or in the ocean for fish.
Yes, that's
so which
correct.
means we won't be able to eat and survive.
On our favorite fish that we like.
And then our livestock as well would die off. Oh, and imagine that with the melting glaciers, right? We have penguins, we have seals, and we have polar bears. So then if they're also in search of, glaciers that are actually stable, they might die along the way. So which means that actually our animals will end up being extinct.
Yes, and remember animals or species that have extinct. I personally would have loved to take a selfie with a dinosaurs.
It's just something, an animal that is extinct. I would have loved to seen it.
Yes, and another species that is essentially extinct is a dodo bird. I would have, seen a dodo bird, and unfortunately or interestingly enough, there are plants which actually only grows when a dodo bird actually swallow the seed, and then it gets digested in the dodo bird's stomach. That's now when it can germinate. So both organisms actually go to extinct at the same time.
Yes, and you know what, bringing it home to our continent. Let's not go far. Let's talk about what happened in KwaZulu-Natal, Durban. Now, April 2022. The unexpected heavy rainfall that caused a flood. And I'm telling you, the whole of Durban was under a detrimental state because even the nice suburbs, the coastal towns, the townships, the bridges, everything was underwater. And imagine 40,000 people were moved or, had no homes anymore.
That's quite a lot, because as well as in South Sudan, studies have shown that for them to adapt to climate change, they have to send one of the family members to actually go out of the village and go look for a job that can actually pay to be able to survive.
Well, to make it simple, basically, it's like, for us, it's normal, right, when our family member travels.
Yes.
But especially for nomads, nomads are always together. They depend on each other. But because of the harsher conditions that they aren't even able to, plow, plant, or care for their livestock, now they have to send out a family member to actually look for a job. And imagine, sometimes it could be the case that even they don't have the qualifications to get a job in the city, making it even more difficult for them to survive.
Exactly. And before we actually move to Angola, I've forgotten one of the example of the reindeer in Arctic countries. Actually, reindeers as well as golden eagles, they migrate earlier due to climate change than usual, and this actually also causes them to deplete as well.
Oh no. But now Angola.
Yes, Angola. In Angola, just our neighbor, in the provinces of Angola, especially the southern western one, a study have shown that they have suffered 5 consecutive years of drought.
5 years.
5 years, no rainfall, and if it gets there, actually it's really, really minimal. And this has actually caused them to migrate from Angola into Namibia to actually look for food, look for survival, and this is actually what we're calling climate change and migration.
Exactly. As you see, a lot of people don't have the choice anymore, or they are making the decision to leave their homes in order to find new places of survival.
Yes, because if you look at it, climate change actually makes a place to be so hard to live in by decreasing food and water, or by just be unbearable actually.
Yeah.
For example, in Kunene region, now we are in our country, Namibia. Kunene region has been really suffering from drought for a very long time as well, and this has forced people to sell their livestock, small livestock, for example, goats and sheep, for just 1 bag of maize meal.
1 bag?
Yes.
That's not even enough to last if you're a big family.
Yes, that's correct.
Imagine people, we are dying off if we don't stand up and make a change. And also another example is Swakopmund and Walvis Bay. Don't forget the sandstorm, and did you see those waves? They were as tall as the jetty and they were coming all the way into the mainland.
Yes.
Now imagine if this continues. What will we have left?
We will have nothing, and this is the reason why we actually would like you to also comment down below the scenarios, things that we haven't spoken about, and the causes of climate change when it comes to migration, just down below.
Yes, and if you would like more information on how you can participate or how you can help us, to sustain our communities, please don't be shy to reach out to us. But you know what? We have also yet again prepared another wonderful interview for you. So please stay tuned.
Great, good to see you. This way, please.
As promised that we would be bringing you another informative interview, and today I am joined by Mr. Innocent Haingura, who is a conservationist, a researcher, and an entrepreneur. But I should also add that he is a PhD fellow. Well, it's a pleasure to have you, supporting us and sharing your information with us. So would you please introduce yourself to us, to our audience?
Thank you. So my name is Innocent Haingura, and I identify myself as a conservationist, environmentalist, researcher, and entrepreneur.
And then please tell us more about the journey of how you became interested in this topic, or in helping environments or communities preserve the environment.
Well, the interest started from a young age. Growing up, you always kind of take issue with people just littering around and so on and so forth. And coming to university, of course, took interest in environmental related topics, and therefore studied something related to conservation, basically biodiversity management and environmental issues. And therefore that's my background anyway. And I think climate change, as an environmentalist, climate change should become of natural interest to one, and therefore one would also feel compelled to contribute to the discourse and to the discussions. I would also really strongly suggest that the involvement of young people on the topic
very important.
becomes quite critical, because as everybody says, young people are the future, and if we cannot capacitate, educate, and really involve young people in climate action now, then maybe all the efforts that are being done fall the risk or run the risk of being in vain.
Exactly. But then also moving on to my next question, as today's topic is climate and migration / displacement. So then I would like to find out from you, how does climate change contribute to the migration or displacement of many people from their homes?
That's a very good question. Climate change, as much as we expect that it impacts everyone equally, doesn't. And even when you look at urban areas in comparison to rural areas, people in rural areas probably experience the effects of climate change or the consequences of climate change perhaps stronger than those in urban areas.
Yeah.
And because of that, you would expect that people leave those impoverished areas in pursuit of greener pastures, if you may. So you have a very huge, high influx of people coming from the rural areas into urban areas, so that rural to urban migration. That already is a clear indication that there are consequences on the ground that are compelling people to move. So certainly climate change does I would say increase rural to urban migration.
I would like to talk about numbers just a little, because as I did my research, there was a media release by the United Nations Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner, and they had released that 59.1 million people had migrated all over the globe in the year of 2021. Now I want to find out your take on this, and has there been any, how can I say, what is the resolution, or for people who had to leave their homes due to the effects of climate change and going over to other countries, crossing borders for a better life or livelihood?
That's a very good observation, by the way. I often say that there are so many climate change has several or cross-cutting consequences, and that varies or ranges from economic, livelihood, physical as in environmental, social and political consequences. And what you described there are the socio-economic consequences of climate change that basically compel people to leave their impoverished areas and go looking for greener pastures. It becomes even more serious when you consider the fact that the areas where people migrate to, some of them are already overcrowded, and that brings enormous challenges for the governments and municipalities of those areas in how they actually manage the different services that they are expected to provide to that high influx of people. If we come back home, take Vendu for instance. I mean, of course, with the droughts that we've had in recent years, yes, we did have good rains the last year or so, but evidence suggests that that's going to be a one episode
in a year,
in the many episodes of drought that we anticipate in the coming years. So good to rejoice over that, but evidence suggests that our problems are just getting started. On the other hand, we are struggling, or the country is struggling with several backlogs: energy, housing, water, sanitation. Those four areas already present a very daunting task to all the responsible authorities to actually manage that sort of situation of people populating cities for reasons or circumstances that are really compelling them to do so. So I think there has to be joint collaborative effort, and I think that's where the climate change discourse or discussion at international level is actually looking at, to see how people that are heavily affected by climate change can be assisted to better adapt. Yes, it's great to do quick fixing, address the problems that are happening now, but equipping people to cope with the impacts in the longer term, thereby really not compelling them to move and leave those areas. I think that's where the effort should be, and that's where the energies and discussions should be channeled.
You know, it's great to try and convince the people to stay, but unfortunately there are places where it's in such a detrimental state that these people are trapped in these climatic conditions and they have no choice. They either live there and die, or they move and find a new means of livelihood.
You know, when tackling climate issues and impacts, one has to learn from best practices elsewhere. I often like to use the example of the Middle East. The Middle East is largely a desert, harsh conditions, and I think Namibia, for one, could learn a lot from that. I mean, there are investments in several areas, but investments in basic services in areas that are most climate hit is critical to help people at least sustain themselves. And that's what most countries in the Middle East have done. It made sure, despite I think the terrain in the Middle East cannot be compared to here. It's really dry and harsh. You know, what you see in the movies is real. Water is vital, housing, sanitation, energy, very, very critical. I think if contributions towards climate measures, including contributions that are being committed from the first world to help African countries and countries in the third world cope with climate change impacts, I think should be geared to that, towards securing key livelihood services. When people have water, when people have good sanitation, when people have electricity, often than not they can make do with those and not leave the area, because that unlocks several other opportunities.
Yes. Well, with that said, this has brought us to the end of this very informative interview, and I really would like to thank you once more for making the time to sit down with us and sharing the information that you have. As I've said earlier, if you have any questions for us or Mr. Innocent, as he is the expert in this field, and you want to find out more, please don't hesitate to reach out to us via email, or send us a DM or comment on our Facebook and our YouTube page asking your questions. Well, for today, that's it, and we'll see you next time. One question. What is migration?
Wait, it is migration.
Like, I didn't do agriculture.
Like, no,
there's nothing to do with that. Just
okay,
basically.
look. Like, like in the country, like people, like.
Is it not like moving from one place to another? Or
Yes. Where do polar bears live?
like Antarctica?
Yeah, ne?
Do you know what migration is?
I forgot, I do know.
Okay, where do polar bears live?
Who?
Polar bears.
I don't know.
It's a movement of people from one place to another.
Okay, where do polar bears live?
Polar bears in America.
Yeah.
Your voice is gone.
Migration. It's when you move from one place to the other.
I forgot what it is.
Okay, where do polar bears live?
Is it the east? Wait. In the cold area, wait. Really going. Atlantic. That side.
Okay. And what causes wildfires?
Wildfire.
Yeah.
Wood.
What causes wildfire?
Is it not? What is this?
Okay. Not using like, what's it? The match. Carefully, like when you're done using, and then you throw it like that.
Okay, yes, that
When you are smoking and then you throw the cigarette there.
okay. Well then,
When maybe you are making fire, then maybe there's wind, then the fire will spread. Yeah, spread.
But miss, I don't know.
okay, where do polar bears live?
What are you talking about?
Polar bears, where do they live?
Toilet bears. What's that? What is that?
Those white bears, man.
I don't know.
Okay, what causes wildfires?
No. Excuse me?
What is migration? Where do polar bears live?
What? Antarctica.
Okay, and what causes wildfires?
Storms. I see cigarettes. I see cigarettes in me, bro.
What is migration?
I forgot. I forgot.
Okay, no, where do polar bears live?
In the water.
Wildfires are caused by what?
Chill, bro, chill. Just I'm thinking. It can be by human activities. Yes, human activities.
Okay.
Just go. Yeah, chill. Okay, can I?
What is one energy source that will never run out?
Water.
Okay, good. Yeah. Wait, what is Namibia's main source of production?
What is it? Fish. Agriculture.
Please tell me, what is migration?
Migration. This is the movement of people from one place to another.
And where do bears live?
Polar bears, they mostly live in the Arctic regions such as Greenland. You mostly find them in there, and they're under threat as we speak.
Okay. We hope that you had find that interview interesting because we definitely have.
Yes.
It's very important to know all the facts and how we can help sustain our environment. Well, we sure can't wait to have you back next week, but also make sure that you are paying attention to the answers of our interviewees because we will definitely be asking you questions based on their answers.
Yes, so next week, in our next episode, we are going to talk about something sweet. Something nice. Yeah, something very nice and sweet. Like, it's not just sweet in if we are talking about it, but it tastes.
It even tastes,
Something
even the
that
look
tastes.
of it.
Yeah, and it's
Wow. We're giving away too much.
okay.
Too much. So then definitely we'll check you around again next week Sunday.
Same time, same place. Auf Wiedersehen.
Bye.
Washiwete.